Current incident of SQ321 turbulence, Singapore Airline. After a flight from London to Singapore on Singapore Airlines experienced extreme turbulence on May 21, the Boeing 777-300ER plane was forced to make an emergency landing in Bangkok. As a result, one passenger passed away from what is believed to be a heart attack and several others were hurt. Irrawaddy Basin in Myanmar was the location where the unexpected turbulence occurred almost 10 hours into the journey, according to the airline. It was reported that the pilot had declared a medical emergency and had subsequently rerouted the plane to Bangkok. On the 21st of May, 2024, a Singapore Airlines Boeing 777-312ER operated as Trip 321 experienced strong turbulence over Myanmar, resulting in the death of one passenger and the injury of 104 others. The trip was a scheduled passenger travel from London Heathrow Airport to Singapore Changi Airport, and it was carrying 229 passengers. After that, the aircraft was forced to make an emergency landing at the Suvarnabhumi Airport outside of Bangkok. Because of this disaster, Singapore Airlines experienced its first deadly aviation accident since the crash of Flight 006 in the year 2000. Additionally, this tragedy was the first fatal accident involving the Boeing 777 since Emirates Flight 521 in the year 2016. The aircraft in question was a Boeing 777-312ER that was 16 years old, registered as 9VSWM, and had the line number 701 and the manufacturer serial number 34,578. In February of 2008, it was delivered to Singapore Airlines, and it was fitted with two engines manufactured by General Electric called GE 9115B. The airline has dipped into freight as an alternative revenue stream amid decreased passenger demand during the COVID-19 epidemic. This particular aircraft was one of two Singapore Airlines Boeing 777-300ERs that were temporarily transformed into freighters in the year 2020. While flying above the Irrawaddy Basin in Myanmar at approximately 14:19 local time on May 21, 2024, the Boeing 777-312ER encountered significant turbulence at approximately 7:49 UTC. This was approximately 360 nautical miles, 667 kilometers, 414 miles from Bangkok. At the time, members of the cabin crew were in the process of delivering breakfast when the turbulence got strong enough to cause individuals and objects that were not secured inside the cabin to become scattered around the cabin. It was reported by a few passengers that the fasten seatbelt sign was activated too late to minimize the risk of injuries. At the time of the collision, the aircraft was at an altitude of 37,000 feet, 11,278 meters, according to the tracking data that was collected when it was involved. One passenger was killed, while 104 others were injured. 20 of those passengers were in critical condition. It was a British man who was traveling with his wife who was hospitalized, who was the only person to pass away. He was 73 years old. A cardiac ailment was the cause of death for the individual, who passed away after what is believed to have been a heart attack. Despite having sustained injuries themselves during the turbulent flight, at least 5 medical staff, including 4 doctors and a nurse, were on board as passengers and provided medical attention to others who were hurt. A Hong Konger, 15 British citizens, 12 Australians, 9 Malaysians, 5 Filipinos, 4 New Zealanders, 2 Singaporeans, and a Hong Konger were among those who sustained injuries. A patient who was 83 years old was the oldest individual who received therapy. Internal damage to the brain, spinal cord, and other organs, as well as fractures to the vertebrae and skull, were among the most common injuries that required medical attention for the majority of victims. There were elements of the aircraft's interior that were destroyed, and the images reveal that the oxygen masks were hanging from the ceiling. After the disaster of Flight 006 in the year 2000, this was the first deadly aviation accident that Singapore Airlines has experienced since then. Additionally, the aircraft experienced an uncommented increase in height, reaching 37,362 feet, 11,388 meters. As a result of the turbulent air, the plane began to tremble. To return to a height of 37,000 feet, 11,278 meters, the plane was pitched downwards when the autopilot was activated. In addition, there was an increase in airspeed that was not commanded, and the pilots extended the speed brakes to compensate for this development. An announcement was made by one of the pilots at 7:49:32 UTC, stating that the indications to secure seatbelts had been activated. At 7:49:40 UTC, the aircraft suffered a drop in vertical acceleration that occurred within 0.6 seconds, going from plus 1.35 g to 1.5 g. This drop in acceleration most likely led altitude of approximately 177 feet 54 meters. Following that, the flight was rerouted to Bangkok, where it made an emergency landing at 15:45 local time. A relief flight was sent out by Singapore Airlines, and it arrived in Singapore on the following morning with 131 passengers and 12 crew members. Following the accident, investigators from the Transport Safety Investigation Bureau (TSIB), which is an agency of the Ministry of Transport of Singapore, arrived in Bangkok on the night of the accident. They were able to gather data from both the flight data recorder (FDR) and the cockpit voice recorder (CVR). Because the accident involved an aircraft that was manufactured in the United States, it was also stated that the National Transportation Safety Board of the United States would be sending an accredited representative and 4 technical advisors to assist with the investigative process. An initial examination of the FDR and CVR served as the foundation for the preliminary studies that were made public by the TSIB on May 29, 2024. These showed that the turbulence was initially experienced at 7:49:21 UTC. During that time, the aircraft was subjected to positive vertical pressures that ranged from 0.44 G to 1.57 G for approximately 19 seconds. Additionally, the aircraft experienced an uncommented increase in height, reaching 37,362 feet 11,388 meters. As a result of the turbulent air, the plane began to tremble. To return to a height of 37,000 feet 11,278 meters, the plane was pitched downwards when the autopilot was activated. In addition, there was an increase in airspeed that was not commanded, and the pilots extended the speed brakes to compensate for this development. An announcement was made by one of the pilots at 7:49:32 UTC, stating that the indications to secure seatbelts had been activated. At 7:49:40 UTC, the aircraft suffered a drop in vertical acceleration that occurred within 0.6 seconds, going from plus 1.35 G to 1.5 G. This drop in acceleration most likely led. On the 22nd of May, 2024, the Chief Executive Officer of Singapore Airlines, Goh Choon Phong, issued an apology for the events that transpired on Flight SQ321, conveyed his sympathies, and pledged his full cooperation with the investigation that is currently underway. Both the Prime Minister of Singapore, Lawrence Wong, and the President of Singapore, Tharman Shanmugaratnam, communicated their condolences to the family. The aircraft that had been involved in the accident was eventually permitted to continue flying and arrived back in Singapore on May 26. Afterward, on July 23, it completed a functional flying check to get ready for its transition back into service. On the 27th of July, the aircraft was put back into service and operations were restarted, traveling from Singapore to Shanghai under the designation SQ830, and completed a functional check flight before its service return. Before its service return, the aircraft was also able to successfully execute a functional check flight. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to our channel for more.